It's 11/2/2020, according to my computer, so it's time for a select board meeting. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag and to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with life and liberty and justice for all.
I don't think that's better.
You should go help her. What the? All right, so it's a regular select board meeting. Agenda item number 2 is a public informational hearing. Before we take a motion to approve that, I'd just like to say, or to open the hearing, I'd just like to say that on my ride in tonight, it was really dark out and I'm not happy about it. And if there's anybody here that I can file a complaint with, consider it lodged. So with that said, thanks, Jen. If we want to make a motion to open the hearing, be great.
I'll make a motion to open the public informational hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, so do we have any questions? Is there anybody attending the Zoom meeting tonight that has any questions about the either the town's 2 questions on the upcoming ballot for tomorrow or anything else? I ask if anybody has any questions. Al?
Al does. Go ahead, Al.
Go ahead.
Is this the appropriate time to talk about town's donations?
No,
No.
not quite yet. We're just talking about what's on the ballot tomorrow.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. No real reason to do a brief explanation on our ballot because the election's tomorrow and this is probably not going to be seen by anybody who's not on this Zoom call before the polls close anyway. So with that in mind, take a motion to close the hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So back as a select board, we have warrants. Stanley, you have the general fund?
I have the general fund warrants for 10/30/20 is 112 invoices, total $73,911.10. The St. Albans Police Department Street Crime Unit for $28,650. The next high one would be our healthcare, Blue Cross Blue Shield. There was actually there were 7 invoices for that, but 1 got called back. So we are now still at $20,083. Delta Dental, 910. Culverts, 3509. And tax overpayment for 9,273. Alan has the biggest, Alan Master of the DPW. He had 47 invoices, but I didn't go and total them up, but he has the lion's share we would expect. So based on the information I provided, I would make a motion to approve the general warrants in the sum of $73,911.10.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Stanley.
Right.
Thanks. So, Jonathan?
I have the infrastructure development warrant in the amount of $30,816, dated November 3rd, 2020. And there's 2 invoices on there. One's going for the salt shed to Ascent Consulting for the amount of $3,464, and the other one is for the town hall relocation. And that's invoice from Freeman, French and Freeman in the amount of $27,352. I make a motion we approve both of those invoices.
Okay.
Before we make the motion to approve it, I just want to say that Freeman, French and Freeman, they're about $1,000 less than what they estimated phase 1 for, so
Right.
that was great.
Yeah.
On all our parts that worked on this
Yeah.
process.
You guys, you both, Jonathan and Stan, you had firsthand experience
Carrie's
working.
on it, yeah.
And Carrie,
Anna.
Anna too. Do you feel that the experience for the money was worthwhile? Yeah.
Very productive, I thought.
They're responsive, they came up with some good
Yeah.
ideas when asked.
And of course, this is a part of the 65,000 that voters approved on town meeting day. It resulted with a schematic plan in which I have received several comments from Mr. Vogel, in which will be factored into an upcoming committee meeting. I appreciate the comments, Al.
Welcome.
So we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. You have any more warrants, or we go to payroll? Okay,
All right.
good to payroll.
All right, for payroll warrants, we have two. One dated October 23rd, and that's for the total amount of $17,092. And the second one's dated October 30th, and that's for $32,351.39. And I will make a motion to approve the payroll warrants for those dates.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, so we have our minutes of our special meeting related to the Halloween contest, which the winners were announced on Facebook and their pictures accompany. Very great entries indeed. So we have minutes from Monday, October 26th and Monday, October 19th. Does anybody have any corrections to either set? No, everybody good?
We're good.
Okay, so Jessica, I'll need an affirmative vote, especially for the 26th, because Stan wasn't there, and if only Jonathan and Aaron vote, we'll have a quorum. Okay, we need the motion now.
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes.
Sorry, I'm having a really hard time hearing. I'm trying to get a speaker.
Got it.
I'll
So-
second.
Does someone?
Okay, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Jess.
Welcome.
I could have voted and saved that, but
Sure you could have.
I probably should have.
Okay.
Okay, on for minutes to public comment. Does anybody have any public comment? Okay, not seeing any. Let's move on to agenda item 6, the town manager's report. So, Carrie, take it away.
Awesome. So the first item here, Jess has certainly helped us with. We have Drew, a representative of SE Group here to present, to give us a presentation on some of the work they've done. They've done quite a bit of work. I don't know if you want to follow up with that, Jess, and add something?
Yeah, so I'm excited for Drew to be here. This work goes back well over a year. He'll go away into detail, but it's linking our trail development work to economic growth in the area. And this was all done before we made the investments in the town forest. So it'd be interesting to do this again in a year and really see the impact that we've made. But I'll let Drew take it from here. Well, I'll add one more thing actually. So RISE this year, especially with our cut in staffing, we're really focusing on infrastructure investments and policy changes, because the idea is that if you're building things in the community that will last a long time, if you build it, they will come, which I think we proved with the town forest. That place has been busier than ever with the new trail system. So it's nice to have the data that Drew will present to back that idea up.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm just looking to share my screen. It looks like the host should allow it if possible.
Yep, right here. I just hit it.
Great. Make sure I'm sharing the correct screen.
Please.
Okay, so Drew, you're the host now. You just have to remember to give it back before you log off, or the whole thing will come crashing down.
Okay. So may I ask, what are you seeing on your screen?
Your agenda, the agenda for our meeting.
We're seeing, that's
There we
better.
go.
We were seeing our own agenda. We see the first page of your slide now.
Okay, and you're seeing the actual presentation, or are you seeing the presenter view?
I'm seeing a
Presenter
presenter view.
Okay, great.
That's okay. It actually works.
There we go.
There we go.
Thank you for bearing with me with that. Now, hopefully you can see the right screen here.
Yes.
So just very quickly, who I am in SC Group. I'm based here in Burlington. We do community planning and design. We started out doing ski area planning and design, was how we started in 1958. And since that, we've expanded into many other areas. We worked with St. Albans, with the city, with the town as well, but we did a fair amount of work on the downtown design in St. Albans, the streetscape there. Been working with Enosburg recently, and also the Missisquoi Valley Rail Trail, and that's kind of how we got connected up. Kind of as Jeff was mentioning, we were working with some of the folks on RISE, with trail counting happening on the Missisquoi Valley Rail Trail. And then we got to talking about doing some trail counting, on some other trail systems in St. Albans. We've done a little bit of work since then, and we'll share, some of the connection between a few different projects here. So first, to start out with the trail counting, and I'm realizing as well, after I put this together, that I should tell you a little bit about the Missisquoi, since that's in town as well, and so I will end with a little bit on the Missisquoi trail counting. We did another project, not with RISE, but still in your town, and so I'll touch on that in a moment too. But with RISE Vermont, we did trail counting in 3 different locations. One was St. Albans Town Forest, in the town of Swanton on the Fit and Healthy Trails. That's the one kind of right there in the village behind the school. And then on the St. Albans Bay, on the town park, St. Albans Bay. And so this was all pre-COVID in 2019. We put them up in August and we took them down right in October. So as Jeff was mentioning, this is going to be a really good baseline for the St. Albans Town Forest. It was right after the town forest trail system had opened up, and I don't think it had even been advertised a whole lot at that point. And so really good to establish that baseline of use in the town forest. I'll go back really quickly just to show, we put up these trail counters that you can see in the photo here, and it is an infrared sensor that just counts every time somebody passes by. And so we also had some people from RISE Vermont who were able to be out there and make direct observations to kind of verify the infrared counters, and also you can get some richer data from that direct observation. And so what we found was that the busiest day of the week was Sunday at all 3 locations. Saturdays were almost as busy as in Swanton, and the Fit and Healthy Trail in Swanton really has a lot of kind of value for people all throughout the week, whereas we saw the Baytown Park and the Town Forest were a bit more recreational use, as opposed to the Fit and Healthy Trail, which had some more commuting use happening there. The St. Albans Town Forest, the busiest day was actually a Tuesday, but part of that was kind of due to its low uses, low volumes. There was like an event or something drove people there on a specific Tuesday, and that kind of drove up the visitation. The busiest hour varies by location, and so we found in St. Albans, the busiest time was about middle of the day at 1 p.m. And at the Bay Park, it remains high throughout the afternoon and into the early evening. We saw that by far, you can see here that the peak use of the town forest as a kind of brand new trail system, it had 14 people one day, and that was its biggest day in 2019. And so I think, as Jess alluded to, we see these numbers being a lot higher now, particularly after COVID. Those are the sorts of places we saw really explode in use. But we did see that the St. Albans Baytown Park had the most uses, even higher than the Fit and Healthy Trail, with 855 people on one day on a Sunday in September. And so that day was huge. But there was that was quite a bit bigger than any other day, so we think there was probably an event happening. And so for average visitation, you see that the Baytown Park has, the highest average, and the town forest has the lowest, and by quite an order of magnitude there as well. And that the town forest and the Baytown Park have most of the use happening over the weekends, whereas in Swanton is a bit more spread out. And who do we see out there using it? We saw a little bit more males observed using the trails, about 59%, which is kind of what you might see on most trail systems throughout Vermont. And that we saw that hiking and walking was the predominant use, but there's also jogging, biking, sightseeing, or birding also happening out there. So we just have some charts for each trail system, so Rise particularly can understand kind of what are the busiest days of the week, how to drive additional visitation there. And you can see some of the uses by gender that we talked about. And so then what do we do with this data? And so we were able to use this to do economic impact analysis. And so what does that mean? Economic impacts are different than fiscal impacts. Fiscal impacts we would think of as coming just to the town. And so usually the town does not charge fees for the trails, but we do spend money on helping to keep them up, maintenance and things like that. And so the fiscal impact, if you look at trails, is always negative because you almost never charge money for the trails. But the economic impact is different, and that's talking about the money that's brought into local businesses by people who are using the trail spending money at local businesses. And so it's not looking at the town coffers, but it's kind of looking at the community impact for local businesses. And so how do we come up with that? We use trail counts, and then we need a percent of trail user types by 3 different users, and that's local users, non-local day users, and that would be people like myself from Burlington coming up and riding on the Fit and Healthy Trail, or coming up and riding around on the town forest trails, or local, non-local overnight users. And we need that assumption because they spend very different amounts. And we know, we have some spreading profiles I'll share with you for those 3 different types of users, and that's how we come up with the economic impact. And so like I said, we take that total visitation, we multiply it by the different types of trail users, and we get 3 different numbers for those different types of spending. And we use a model, an economic model that was developed by the National Park Service called the money generation model. And they use it to model the national parks, but it's used all over by municipalities, counties, and states to model recreational assets for the country. And so we have to make an assumption of the types of trails and the types of users that are here. And we thought that this was a very much locally serving trail system, all 3 of them. And so that means that they're primarily local day users using these trails. They're not, kind of like the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail, for example, would have a much more regional visitation profile. And as the Swanton Fit and Healthy Trail gets connected up to that, we would see that becoming more of a tourist serving amenity. But we see these 3 trail systems as almost all locally serving. But we are here in Vermont, so not every use is local, and so what we assume is 92% are local, 5% are the day visitors like from Burlington or elsewhere in Vermont, and 3% are overnight, and that's just kind of capturing the baseline of Vermont's picture on tourism. But we are assuming that they're highly locally serving. So then we use some data. We have about average trail spending, and we see that local day users spend about $11.32 per trail visit. That's things like ice cream or a beer, or if you grab a burger afterwards, things like that. And so that's based on 11 different trail studies that have been done recently here in New England and Vermont. And then we use the ACCD's visitor spending survey that they do for Vermont tourists for the non-local day users and overnight users. And so as you see, they spend out quite a bit more than a beer and an ice cream, about $70 for a day visitor, and that's gas and food and everything. And then if you're throwing in a hotel and everything like that, you're at about $175 per visitor. And so with that, we see that the Swanton Fit and Healthy Trail generates about $265,000 in economic activity through those sales, and that would support about 3.7 jobs. And important to think that's not 3 whole jobs, that's 0.1 jobs in many places. And so a small part of a person at a gas station's job is supported by that activity, and a small part of a job at a restaurant would be supported by that activity. We saw that the St. Albans Town Forest has pretty low visitation and equally low economic impact relative to the others, but there, even with that, there is some economic activity that's realized through that. And then again, as the Baytown Park with the most visitation kind of has the most activity, economic activity. And when you combine them all together, just those three trail systems actually then start to have some real positive economic benefits for the county. And that's looking at Swanton, St. Albans, and the county more broadly. And something that's really important to look at with this is kind of the percent of users, as I said, almost all local day users, but even with 3% of visitors being overnight, that makes up 28% of the spending. And so to the extent that you can make your trail systems a little bit more open and inviting to outdoor visitors, then you can kind of grow that economic opportunity. Just a couple of percentage points or a couple more overnight visitors really help to kind of maximize that activity. As I mentioned, as we said, we think has more tourist visitation happening. It's a almost 30-mile trail. It's part of the VAST system, and so it has more folks coming in from outside. And so we assume 80% local day users there, 15% non-local day users, and 5% overnight visitors. But also found that winter and summer with the snowmobiling and everything, that trail generates almost $2 million in economic impact throughout northern Vermont. Similarly, though, we also kind of point out the value of that overnight visitor kind of being only 20% of the visitation, but a large part of the economic impact that comes from that. I'm also going to touch on a signage project, but before that, I wanted to pause and see if there are any questions or conversation around the trail counting or the economic impacts or how we came up with that.
Thanks for this. This was great. I just had a question about trail counting and wondering if there's any value to having it done regularly, whether it's biannually or every 5 years or every year. I don't know if there's a certain cadence that's worth considering to have a sense of what we're doing and where we might want to look at development over time.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm definitely of the mind of more information is better with that, and so if you can do it every year, that is ideal. And there are a lot of options for doing that, and we've shared with Rise, and I can also send to the town as well if you have a conservation commission or some volunteers that are interested in this. There is a volunteer system where you can use observational counts. It requires 6 hours of volunteer time, and then you can use the National Bicycle and Pedestrian Documentation Project methodology. Sorry, that's a mouthful, but it is a national program set up by Federal Highways that allows you to use that observation and then extrapolate for annual estimates. You can do that, and I think even doing that year over year is helpful. And then, we're working with Williston, and they found that they're at a point where some of their trails are so busy they want to know more regularly, and then you can think about getting your own trail counters. That's certainly an option. They cost about $2,500 a piece, and then you have to have somebody kind of knowing how to manage the data. The SE Group rents ours, and we're really happy to help you with that, but you don't necessarily have to hire us every year in order to get some really valuable information. I would think maybe having a volunteer program, and you can check in with us every 5 years and look at the economics as well and kind of do that, I think is probably your most bang for your buck of kind of understanding over time how those things are changing.
Yes, I would just suggest that, oh, sorry, I'm getting reverb. I think the Parks Committee, we have some volunteers on there. That could be a good task for us maybe next summer to check back in with the town forest and do our own 6-hour count.
Yeah, it takes 3 2-hour sessions. So you go out there 3 times to kind of make sure that you're getting a good sample size, and then you can use that to extrapolate. You enter some information like we're in Vermont and we have a long winter and a short summer, and kind of the type of trail that it is, if it's kind of a path in the woods or if it's in kind of the village, kind of like the Swanton Trail, we kind of tell it a little bit about what you're counting, and then it extrapolates based on national data and algorithms. Great. Any other questions or thoughts around the trail counting or the economic impacts?
No, thank you.
No question.
Not right now.
Cool.
Okay.
Well, I will switch over here quickly to look at the sign concept. So I think you should now be seeing a map. Fabulous. And so through the Missisquoi Valley Rail Trail project, we've been working on some signage, and soon the entire trail got funded with the VORAC grant, the signs that we designed to be implemented along the entire trail. And so that's something that will be coming into the town, kind of through the Northwest Regional Planning Commission. Very exciting, but through that, RISE reached out to us, saw the signs that we designed, and reached out to us to look at some sign designs for the Macomb Shore Road and the Ship to Shore route, which is part of the Lake Champlain bikeways. And so RISE had invited kind of this walkability expert, Mark Fenton, to do a visit. Was it 2 years ago or a year and a half ago? And this is one of his recommendations, was to put a sign along Macomb Shore Road to kind of alert folks to that you might see pedestrians, you might see people on bikes, you might see farm equipment, that it's a rural kind of recreational and agricultural road. And so this project's kind of building off that and looking at some locations for 3 different types of signs. A gateway sign that says, "Welcome to Macomb Shore Road. Here's what you might expect here." There's a banner sign, and so that helps to mark the Ship to Shore route of the Lake Champlain Bikeway. And so that loop includes Macomb Shore Road, and it goes through the village of Swanton, right near the Fit and Healthy Trail. And folks see that as there's already a lot of folks riding on Macomb Shore Road, and kind of building on that recreational resource to sign in as well. And then the third type of sign is just a V-Trans sign that kind of helps you find your way along that Ship to Shore route.
I just had a quick question,
So
if I
we
could
recommended
interrupt.
a few of these gateway signs.
Never mind.
So this would be in the Baytown Park in St. Albans, and then where Lower Newton Road comes in on Macomb Shore Road, you'd see one of these, and then you'd see one as well on the far northern end of the road in the town of Swanton. And so it's a sign kind of intended to serve both drivers and people on bikes and people walking as well. And so it simply says, "Welcome to Macomb Shore Road, a farm, bicycle, and family-friendly route." It also has the tagline, "Travel safely," kind of speaking to all users of the road, to kind of just be aware of what you might see out there, and to drive with a little bit more care, or to travel with a little bit more care, however you're moving out there. And so this would be on cedar posts, local material, rot resistant signs, and we see that being outside of the roadway right of way, so it'd be something akin to a community gateway sign. It's not a road sign as far as V-Trans would be concerned, and so it would be put in the park or on private lanes out of the roadway right of way, kind of alerting people, "Welcome to our neighborhood," or "Welcome to this road," and giving a little bit of information on kind of what folks might see there. The second sign that we see is for the Ship to Shore route of the Lake Champlain Bikeway. And so there are bike routes all along Lake Champlain on the New York side and on the Vermont side. And Local Motion has recently taken over management of these different routes. And this one is the one that goes through St. Albans and Swanton, the Ship to Shore route. So the idea for this is having a few of these signs placed along this loop, both in Swanton and in St. Albans. Kind of helping people to know that they're on the route, encouraging people to come and ride that loop. I've certainly come up from Burlington to ride around Macomb Shore Road and up to Kilcare, and so I'm one of those people who has done that myself. And this will just encourage more folks to come up and do that. And so these are looking at the signs next to each other, and RISE Vermont and Local Motion are both really excited about this, because there's an opportunity to kind of be an example for other communities, and these signs could really work well throughout the system. And so if we think of other parts of Lake Champlain bikeways, Basin Harbor Road down in Virgins, has a lot of similarities to the feel of Mockwam Shore Road, and so this signage could be used in other communities potentially as well. And then the last type of sign I'll show you here is just the directional sign, excuse me for the flipping. And so that's kind of the traditional V-Trans sign that you see out there. And our signage map does recommend a few of those just so people know where the turns are. Those are low-cost signs that you apply to V-Trans to help implement, and they will produce the signs for you. They're pretty inexpensive, but it's a process that we have to work through with V-Trans, and we spoke with the bike ped coordinator, John Kaplan there, and he's aware of that project and can help get those kind of final little signs included as well. And so we did some cost estimating for Rise Vermont. I know they provided a grant to the town to help implement these signs. And so we made a presentation with the select board at Swanton as well. And so the goal is to implement, like I said, a gateway sign at the northern end of Mockwam Shore Road in Swanton, one at the middle in St. Albans where Lower Newton Road comes in, and one at the southern end at the Baytown Park. So folks kind of identify Mockwam Shore Road as this recreational resource, as this agricultural route, and kind of, realize that you may encounter tractors out there, or people on bikes, or people walking on. So with that, are there any other questions or thoughts around the signage?
Are we still muted?
Are
Yep.
we muted?
Please.
Go ahead, Al.
Thank you. What are the costs of the directional signs produced by the state?
I'm not sure. They will produce them, I think, in their signage department. There are standard route signs from V-Trans. I'm not sure of the cost for them, but I believe they should be no cost to the town, in that the state would put them up as part of the ship to shore.
Carrie, could you expand
What if we-
where
what
we
if we
closed
wanted-
up, where the faces are?
What if we wanted those signs to the bottom of French Hill at Fisher Pond Road and French Hill, and then all the way up to Fred Lake Road, again with an arrow going further north?
Absolutely. The town could designate bike routes as it kind of designate bike routes within the town. And then you could go through a process with V-Trans to sign the different bike routes.
Okay, so this, I'm not looking for bike funds. This is, you wouldn't want to, not many people will ride a bike up French Hill.
Right.
I'm looking just for, if you will, for car information.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's also V-Trans has a signage program for wayfinding. So it's that standard V-Trans signs. You've probably seen them. A quarter mile on your left will be XYZ business. You can apply for those. And there's a couple different vehicle signage programs that you could apply for as well for vehicle wayfinding. And then if you're doing route finding for cars, you would look at something like the Scenic Byways program, but then you're into more than just the town, usually when you're signing a vehicle route, like a scenic byway.
Okay, Jessica, are you gonna follow up on this type of information, or at least can I contact you for more specific information, how to go about this? Unmute.
Do we have her muted?
I don't have her muted. Nope. Jessica, we can't hear you. You're muted.
Yeah, I can follow up. I'm just curious what your goal is for putting the signs on French Hill Road.
So people know where to go. When they're driving on Fisher Pond Road, if they're looking for the forest, they're not gonna see it without some sort of direction.
We have a sign at the end of the road that says Town Forest 2.7 miles, and it's a directional sign
Where?
at the end of French Hill Road.
Man, I've been driving it up for years, I haven't seen it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's there.
It's there.
Yep.
You just-
So
Yeah, it's there.
it's fairly new though.
Yeah.
So you haven't been missing it for 20 years. It's just, a
Yeah,
few
it's only
weeks.
been up there for 2 or 3 weeks.
All right. So Aaron had a question.
Yep. So my question, actually, I think I answered it through Google, but I just had a question, and I figured I'd raise it anyways in case other folks had the same. So the ship to shore route, that's something that's been established. That's a name that's already out there. That's an established bikeway as opposed to a proposal for a name for this route. Is that right?
Yeah, I wanna make sure I heard your question right, is that the ship to shore bike
Yep.
route is an established route already, rather than the proposal for a new bike route?
Yep.
And that's right, it's been part of the Lake Champlain Bikeway, I'm not sure exactly how long, but I believe since maybe the nineties, like mid-nineties, I believe is when they established most of those routes. Kind of management of the Lake Champlain Bikeways has changed over time, and it is right now being kind of taken over, and a new life is being breathed into it by Locomotion. And so there may be more projects like this, or there is interest in from Locomotion's perspective, I believe, in kind of having some more signage and some more presence for some of these routes. Right now, I think the only one that has signage is the official Lake Champlain's Bikeway. The whole route around the lake has signage, but there are several of these in each region. There's a Milk to Honey in Virgins, and in southern Vermont. There's this one in northern Vermont. There's ones in New York. And I don't think any of the individual routes have their own signs yet. And so I believe that Ship to Shore would be the first one to get this sort of signage too.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, that's why we picked this one, because between the recommendations from Mark Fenton and then looking into it, we had heard that the Lake Champlain Bikeway went through here and found this route. So it seemed like a really great pilot project. And we have talked to our other RISE counterparts throughout the state, and they're excited about trying it out in their town too. So we could be a pilot and then hand off this, toolkit for signage to other regions.
Great.
Alan, did you have a comment?
I was just concerned is that the final design on the sign? Because I've been waiting to see if you had the final design. And if so, can I get the PDF so I can send it to my sign company to have them made?
Yeah,
Yes.
are you guys fine with this? I mean, we like the signs. We wanted to get your feedback too and make sure that you approve them and like them.
I'd almost, to nitpick it, I'd like to see the post be some kind of a vinyl product that we won't have to touch for 20, 30 years. I don't know if a cedar post, I know it won't rot, but I look at, like later in the meeting, we're going to talk about the city. They want to put a new sign to mark the driveway to Hardak. And the city signage all looks relatively the same, from the downtown to their entrances in and out of the city to all their parks. It's the vinyl posts with the green back and the white lettering, and they have their little maple leaf logo. I think this could be a good opportunity for us to figure out what we want all of our signs to look like in the future and to start doing them all the same. I think we're getting, Alan?
I mentioned this to Jessica before, I kinda have to put those on a street sign type post like we use for our regular street signs.
Yeah.
Because it's against the law to actually put wooden posts along the roadways. They have to be able to be broke off at a 5 mile per hour speed. So
These
that's
are
why we have
designed to be
special-
outside of the roadway right of way, so they're not manual MUTCD signage. And so these are similar to the signs that you have, welcome to St. Albans Town. So they're on private land or on town land outside of the roadway right of way, and should not require those breakaway posts. And
We
they
should
be
have to
able
get easements then from the people,
Your post.
we have to get an easement from the property owner to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the town owns the park where we recommended, the first sign to be. The one on Lower Newton Road would be on private lands, I believe, is where that was located. So that one would absolutely require, an easement or a negotiation with that landowner, or finding some town land. But, this sort of sign is more welcoming you to the community of Montgomery Shore Road, is the intention behind the sign. As opposed to a manual traffic control device sign, you have much less ability to control what it says, how it looks, and you kind of are stuck with a reflective, very specific look to the sign. And so the approach here was to not be a traffic sign and to be community gateways.
And whatever signage we pick, ideally, would it be matching if there's signage, similar signage in Swanton for the other parts of this route? Or is this just, yeah,
Yeah, I don't love that.
yeah,
Identify signage in Swanton, and along the ship to shore route, absolutely recommended that it would, kind of nest together with that. And with the, it incorporates the Lake Champlain Bikeways logo as well, and so it's incorporating, the Lake Champlain Bikeways, messaging.
I mean, I guess my question with the posts is if we're gonna do it, I mean, we can use the same logos, but I know I'm pessimistic. I'm a developer. I like all things to be tight and neat, and I'm not in love with the cedar. I just like some kind of a vinyl product. I think it looks a little bit better, but yeah, I don't know. So that's yeah. Hi, Jess. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
I don't know what you just said, Brendan.
I don't like the cedar posts. I'd prefer they'd be vinyl. Other than that, have we communicated to the Public Works Director where the one on Lower Newton Road needs to go so we can? I mean,
Well, the order matters here, and I guess what they're asking for is conceptual approval and maybe even final approval of the sign, and then we can talk about the semantics of exact sign placement at another time, would be my guess. That, we haven't given them approval to really go any farther right now.
I think that would be right. I would just note that we could change that material of the post
yeah.
very easily.
Yep.
That's all I'm saying. Like, I think what we're gonna do is start to really build around having one type of everything.
Yep.
To start projecting a brand, much like the city does, in everything they do. And, if we're gonna do that, I think the material we'll probably end up picking for our own personal signs to mark parks and in other areas will probably end up being a vinyl product. So, I'm all on board with the signs. I love the concept. I think it's great to warn people what you're getting into by taking McQuam. I think the residents will embrace it. So, all for it. Anybody have any other points or questions? Or Jessica or Drew, do you have any wrap-up points you'd like to make? Okay,
No, you're all good?
all right, Carrie.
Okay,
back to-
excellent. So if you can transfer the host of this meeting to me before you leave, Drew, we'd appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thank you for a good presentation, Drew.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, thanks. Awesome.
Thanks, Jess, for all your work on this, too.
Have I transferred?
You have, I think.
It's back when, what was it, Joe and Alan were trying to figure out how to get the yellow lines hidden so we could do the other, yeah. A lot of work's been going into it. There's a lot of good volunteering
I'm not
hours.
sure. Did you transfer host?
I don't think he did.
I don't think you,
No.
I don't think you
It's not
did.
shared the screen.
Not just share screen, but the three dots on the upper right
Of our,
of our screen, like they should be up here. Oh, you
Well, you
can't see my screen, but upper right.
so wherever our images of the board, like you see Carrie, there should be in that one picture up in the top right, if you put your cursor over it, there should be three dots. If you click on that to expand that menu, there should be a
Should be
make
an option
host.
to make host, and you can make me host.
Yes, I'm sorry. Okay, do I want to change the host to Carrie then?
There you
Please.
go.
Thank you, Drew.
Unless you want to stay for the night.
No, but I do. Good time.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. So,
Perfect. So the next item is a draft 2022 budget. Hard to believe we're there already. We went over in middle of October most of the departments. Tonight we were slated to go through the nonprofit requests, so you have those in your packets. We received all but one.
could I just try to, let's summarize and then get through it, because I think we're gonna get to the same result no matter how long the conversation takes. So we have a list of, over a dozen local nonprofits that we give a total of, last year was $69,039. The largest amount is to the St. Albans Museum, which was a voted article for $15,000. For the last 38 years, this will be the 38th year of level funding. We've been giving FCIDC $12,500. We give The American Red Cross, 2,500, Restorative Justice, 4,000. We give the Franklin County Senior Center, 5,500. So it's just our way of providing a local funding source that's not, it's recession proof and it's guaranteed money every year, and it doesn't cost that much on our grand list. I mean, that $70,000 that we spent last year was less than 1 penny of our 37 cent tax rate. So we've been talking about it the first budget meeting and the last few meetings, you know, what our thought process would be when it came time to review these. I think given the pandemic and our goal to level fund the budget, it would be appropriate at this point to have somebody make a motion to just level fund all local, regional, state nonprofit allocations.
Can I make a recommendation that we consider, because the difference between level funded, which would be the 69,000 and change, it's $2,500 is the difference. And a lot of nonprofits this year have seen shifts in their funding due to competing grants, changes in the kinds of events that they can do to raise funds. For example, the Franklin County Home Health Agency typically does their Blue Jean Ball, and they had to move that remote. So there's a lot of folks that have had to do lots of different ways of raising funds. And for a difference of, you know, Franklin Grand Isle Restorative Justice Center, Home Health Agency, and then the Friends of Northern Lake Champlain, that's a change of $2,500, and I would suggest that we consider honoring or accepting the requests that have been made for the 71,000, so the additional 2,500. That would be my recommendation.
Okay. Stanley, Jonathan?
The only question I would have is the Franklin County Senior Center, since it's shutting down, do
Through the end of the year.
we
Yeah.
still need to,
Through that, did you say, Aaron, you sound like you had some knowledge on
Their
that.
letter said through the end of the year, and they were reevaluating at the start of the next year. So it may be that they, you know, if we're not gonna, since this is based off the for the 22.
Yeah, it's for July of next year
Yeah.
on.
So if they don't revive, then there wouldn't be a check going to
right,
them.
and these checks would not go out until July.
Right.
Yep.
Right,
So
until we start our FY '22
And this is
budget.
just our budget. This doesn't mean, the only one that I think there's a case that we would have to give it would be maybe the
Museum.
museum, since it was a
Mhm.
voted article.
Mhm.
Everything else is up to, you know, if we look at this list on, you know, June 30th and say, well, that one's defunct and this one's no longer in
Right.
operation, we'll just
We
say,
would have to do that again this
Mhm.
year.
yeah.
Mhm.
And we can take another pass at this sometime in December
Yep.
too, if we wanted to.
I wouldn't cut them right now then.
I would, I don't know, I agree with Aaron at a face value. It's a 3.6% increase in one sector of the budget when we asked every other department to completely level fund. And they presented us a budget that was up 5,300 or 4,600 or it was less than 0.1% that they were up, and to go ahead and just say, okay, this is the one thing that we get to set as a group, and we're gonna raise it 3.6% sounds a little hypocritical. But I understand, and I have an internal conflict with that too,
Mhm.
so.
What about the ones that we have not received a request from yet? Should they be considered?
We get Tim's House for 1,500, we haven't received anything from them, but that's the homeless shelter.
Yeah,
I
and I
mean-
know that they've had some, like, organizational changes
Yeah,
lately.
they've had a new executive director. They're their third one in months. I
Mhm.
mean, they've had some.
But when we want a level fund, it seems to me just the opposite. If we go out and say we got $1,500 for you, or we got 2,000 for you. If I'm running one of those units, I wanna make sure I'm there to get my money, you know, it's, when we gotta go and ask them, I have a little bit of a problem with.
Is that the only one we haven't received one from?
And I've
Correct.
asked him a second time, and I'm not getting any response.
I've got a couple of their employees in my cell phone right now. I can tag. Let me wrangle a letter up. I'll take that on where our staff doesn't have
Yeah,
to.
and I'd like to know who that is for future reference.
Yeah, because
I
they have had some changeover.
I had recently had an email issue with, like I had the wrong email for someone too
I
recently,
see it.
so, yeah.
So, well, Al, I see here.
Yes, maybe I can help your problem. I've talked to Admiral Ham, and the valet veterans are not gonna need the $2,000 this year. We have not sent in a request for it.
Yeah, that wasn't included in our final draft, Al.
It was taken out.
Right.
Came out last year, Al.
Well,
Yeah.
no, Al and I talked about it this year, and I think it was removed before this, like in the
Yeah.
last week.
The list we have in front of us does not have it on it. We did have it at our first budget meeting, and we had a question
But
about it.
is-
So,
But it actually, well, it's in the printed budget right now, and it's included in that 71 that Aaron referenced, so we can.
well, is it? Because on this it says 71,539, but
Right.
doesn't have that number in it.
No. No, it isn't in the.
Yeah, no, this isn't in there.
On page
Well, in
7,
the budget it's there, but it's not in the list that I gave.
Right.
Based on
this
the-
evening.
Right. The
I know, but
71,500.
that's what I just said, I said it's in our, it's
Well, we're
in the
looking.
total, all right, now of our FY 22 budget.
Well, the amount of.
Which
What we
is
have
good
in front of
news.
us doesn't have it on it. The 2,500
Mhm.
delta that we're talking about, if that were on it, would be 45.
So Carrie, are you saying that in the one that we reviewed, we still haven't taken out that amount? So it's reflected here, but just in the total budget from the last draft.
That is
doesn't-
correct, yeah.
Yes, in the full budget.
There's only one way to do it, right?
Yeah, I think the packet we got, it has 2,000 and the total 71, so when you take that out, it's 69.
Let
Mhm.
me
So
look.
maybe we could just
Yeah, I'm checking.
I would love to adjust with what they asked for in home health. They're struggling right now.
I tell you, we got to be careful. I just got elected co-president of the St. Albans Museum. If we hand out any type of a percentage raise to anyone, I would be back here in a heartbeat with that cap on. And I know a lot of other nonprofits would be too. Half of the value of a level fund is to set a precedent for other nonprofits. But again, we asked for letters. They submitted what they submitted,
Mhm.
and that's what we're considering, and we're not going back. So maybe that point doesn't matter as much. But there have been conversations at our board level for the museum on how to approach the town for expanded funding, and I've cautioned it every time, suggesting that we'd be looking to level fund a lot of our charitable contributions for the upcoming fiscal year.
We fund the Historical Society considerably more than everyone else, though.
Yeah, I mean, the library
Well,
versus, the library gets about 10 times as much.
It's true, but I wasn't talking about a full-fledged department at this point of the town, or a extension thereof, but, so I think the question is, does the select board, I'm hearing a couple different answers here, approve the level funding, or approve the additional 2,500
Well, I
for
don't-
funding in FY 22?
Is it an additional?
I guess that's the question.
My math is way off. I mean, does this total in front that says 71, does that include, I mean, are we talking $2,500 with or without the veterans? I mean,
The level funding request is 69,039.
And that doesn't include the veterans, neither, yeah,
neither one do.
right.
Correct.
Okay, now we're on the same page here.
Yep.
It's a 3.6% increase, I don't know. I guess somebody will make a motion and we'll vote and.
I'll make a motion that we accept the level funding request that's in front of us at this point.
For the 69?
$69,039.
Anybody want to second that?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Anybody have any more discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. Okay.
Aye.
So we have a motion carried. Healthy discussion.
Okay.
Carrie, back to you.
Yep, just gonna make that note in the budget. Were there any other, so that was all we were gonna cover in the budget today, right?
Correct?
Okay, I'm good with that. COVID update, the pandemic, obviously, everyone's been watching the news, but for town hall, we remain open by appointment only. It seems to be working fairly well. Even within the zoning office, AJ and Jen and one of our newer employees, Molly Mashter, have been accommodating those who come to town hall, to meet them outside, which sometimes means it takes a little bit longer, but it seems to be working to keep everybody safe and business moving. I do continue to listen to the governor's press conference twice a week and daily watch the COVID counts. The health department's website continues to evolve, and it's actually full of a bunch of quite awesome information, although it's sad, but it's just a copious amount of data on that website. I don't have anything else to report. It's just that seems to be evolving pretty quickly again. I feel like we go back and forth with whether or not we're going to change, but at this point we remain open only by appointment. I will move to the next item under town manager's report, which is the Vermont Land Trust. You have a letter and a map talking about, that's formalizing the land trust request, the land trust actually transaction. And like they said in that letter, they don't necessarily need a motion, but they would like to know if you support this, and if you do not, then they will need a letter indicating that you are not in support of this.
I think it's fine. It's all swampland, isn't it?
So yes, so for people that haven't been following us that closely, it is the swampland that's adjacent to the existing swamp.
No, I don't mean to say anything about anything. I've never gotten the reason of paying for development rates on undevelopable land, but it seems like the money could be spent elsewhere, but God bless.
I don't think it's swamp according to the map.
Well, it's right next, it's adjacent to it, so it's probably a mixture of different types, but it's
Dave Montang go for it,
Huh?
yeah?
n-
Well, maybe I had a wrong map. Let me look.
The land trust, well, the neighboring property to the Black Creek farm is Redmond.
Well, that's what we just, okay, that's what we just approved.
That's what we just approved from the state of Vermont by. This other property is, well, Nelson Dairy, I don't know who.
Okay, this is the whole old Montang farm you're talking about.
Right,
Right.
down just past Glenbrook.
Yeah, okay. Shows how much, shows how well my memory is.
I looked at the
still
wrong
don't
map
think
as
it's-
well.
Just
Got a color map.
Goes down the side of Sam's.
Yep.
No, they're we're not, I know it's unintelligible at this point, so it's not the swampland, it's actually the old Montaigne farm. Is that what it looks like to you?
Yeah.
It does. It looks like a lot of acreage there.
Yeah.
127 acres in one parcel and 119 in the other.
Go down to the next page, you see
Yeah.
where just in 119 acres. It's right on the Montang Road.
And only
Yeah.
one of the parcels is, like the one that's on the, I guess, northern half is the one that they're trying to designate, right?
The
Right.
119 itself.
Mhm. Yep.
Which is,
All right, that being said, and thank you for correcting it,
yeah, thank you, Jonathan.
it's currently owned by Nelson Dairies West LLC. Do you have any comments on that land?
I don't have a comment. I don't know how I feel about it, but what does the board think? Anybody have any? I can't really speak to it. I mean, I'm a developer, so I'm gonna throw my own opinion aside and listen to what you guys have to say.
If they own the land,
Yeah,
they
it's
want
their
it, they
right.
can do whatever they want with it.
I guess
as
it's-
long as it's just a big open farm field. I mean.
So
what's con-
this is the land
let 'em
trust, though.
conserve
This isn't putting it in current use.
Right.
I mean, once it's done, it's done. I mean, there's state, federal, and private money tied up in
Right.
this one. This is the unlockable box.
Well, I think
Mhm.
that map you saw was like all the properties that are in land trust, I
Yeah.
think. There's quite a few of them down through there.
Well, that's it. Like, it's almost like you wanna keep something open to be able to develop on that end of town, but I guess the excluded 127 acres across the street is out, but a lot of that road frontage is taken up with the other farm, so.
Yeah, that one house,
I mean,
two houses actually.
I don't know what to,
There's 2 houses on the 119?
no, across the street,
Okay, yeah, I'm looking at
on the
that
proposed excluded land.
Okay,
You got road frontage off of Sampson, I guess you could punch a new street down in there, do like a finger lane if you wanted to.
Well, isn't that one house there where the guy just put the pillars up in the front yard?
The telephone poles.
Yeah,
Yeah, small ranch,
that's on the, okay,
almost across from the cemetery, it sets back.
yeah,
Then there's the house that's vacant, that should be torn down probably, right next door to it. No windows in it.
Right.
yeah.
There's-
That's on that Nelson farm too. I
That's
think.
on that farm area.
I,
No, it's not.
Just out.
that's just
Just-
outside of it.
Yeah, just outside of
Just-
it.
Yeah. I don't know, if it's
What
gonna
did-
preserve it forever as ag land, I guess.
So,
I don't-
will it have any effect on our planning and zoning here? This?
I mean, once you take all the development rights, it does have some effect. I don't know if I'm prepared to tell you. I don't know what that means long-term, but
Well, you can't, it conserves it as open space
Yeah.
or ag use, I mean,
So what happens if we say no? We're not gonna allow it to,
Yeah,
red
that's
letter?
it.
I'm like,
We
what
make a
happens? Do they
stink
take
and
us to
then-
court and say? I don't know. What's the
I don't know that I've ever heard of a municipality throwing it.
denying?
I'm sure it happens, but
I don't know either.
usually
It's
this
rare.
type of a communication is like a, oh, good for them type deal, like with the Hudaks and like the Reynolds,
Yep.
I've never ever felt an internal conflict about it. I think that area in the town has a lot of potential, but a lot of it's either wet or permanently conserved, or the soils aren't great. I don't know. Like Lower Newton is in a appropriate comparative area, and that's kind of blowing up over time. Brigham Road's doing the same thing. It's not on the lake, but it's pretty darn close. So, I don't know, that's my 2 cents, and if nobody wants to make any motions to say we don't like it, then,
I don't know enough about it to.
yeah.
I mean, I'd like to understand what happens if we objected, but at this point, I don't hear any strong objections, so I guess we can just
Yeah.
move forward.
I
But
would
we'll
need
look
to-
into it, 'cause I don't.
I'll make a motion that we postpone this until Carrie gets back with more information from planning and zoning, how it overall affects on the town.
Good
Yeah.
idea.
Second.
Yeah, I like that. So we got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Okay,
Perfect.
so we're gonna,
I don't like to
Was
have
there a
the answer.
deadline on that, Carrie?
I didn't see one. I was just reading it as you were talking. Letter was sent to us on the 21st, so,
well, if
we're gonna-
if there's a deadline for the application and we miss the opportunity to comment, I guess that's on us for,
Well, I mean, I don't think we should postpone it. This is their land, and if this is what the family decided they wanted to do with it, I don't think we should hold them up from moving forward. I'm not gonna vote aye on that one.
okay. So we have
Well, I don't know if we're really holding them up, are we? Like, what's the deadline? Yeah,
I
if we
don't see that
Well,
there is
we're-
a deadline.
We're
Do they get-
basically waiting to decide whether or not we wanna send an objection in until we understand
Right.
what an objection looks like and what the play out is after that, I guess. We're not saying no to anything, we're saying we will reserve the right to say no until a later date.
This is it's a preliminary stages, so
Yeah.
we're not holding anything up right now. I mean,
Yeah,
it
and
said-
I don't-
that's the last
I don't
sentence.
anticipate that we will, but I
Right.
think it's
Right.
usually you have to have an issue behind, acting as a
Mhm.
catalyst to get information, and if this is the thing that forces us to learn about what this process looks like,
Yep.
then
I'll
I'd-
do it.
I'd like to just understand it better.
All right.
A lot of land.
All right,
You gonna call vote?
We did.
they did.
It was 3-1. 3-1 all.
Yeah.
Stan, sorry, not Sam, Stan, made the motion, Jonathan second.
The last thing under town manager is just that notice of an initial Act 250 filing for Peter Morse.
Oh. Yep.
And that's all we get, kind of, it's not really very informative, but anyway, there's no action required on that notice, but.
What that is just an expansion of St. Albans mini storage through Act 250.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 5 new buildings, but they
Yeah, I
keep
couldn't
filling up.
remember.
I mean,
Was it 5?
Yeah,
And it's in Franklin Park West, that,
correct.
yeah.
Transferring some land from Malone to Morse, and then getting the Act 250 approval, and then they'll have to go for stormwater and the town's site plan approval and building permits and all sorts of fun.
So that's it for me, for this section.
Okay, so we're on to schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have our general election tomorrow. I don't know if anybody who's not on the Zoom call will ever see this before the election's over. So Roger and Al, you have to vote if you haven't already. Not that I have to remind you guys, but so we have regular meetings Monday, November 16th and Monday, December 7th. Town Hall is closed tomorrow. Much of our current staff's helping with the polls. We'll respond to requests as soon as possible. Feel free to email. And then we have the holiday extravaganza, which is a tree lighting, outdoor. Well, Alan, would you like to give a brief description, since you've been working so closely with the project, what the holiday extravaganza is going to be?
Sure. It's November 27th. There'll be at least 30 craft vendors in the Stone House in a tent for shoppers to get Christmas items and stuff. The running of the bells will be that early evening with lit tractors along the pathway, since the tractor parade is not going on this year. We will have a tree lighting at 8 o'clock, and then at 8:15 fireworks will go off. So it's a socially distanced event. We will have sign-ins, masks are required, and I think we can have a fun-filled, safe day for people.
Thank you, Alan. And we partnered with the Messenger and the city on that, and Alan's been in contact with the city, and they provided some labor assistance, helping get it set up. And do you have any luck getting some decorations?
No, they're still working on it. We got a few of our own, but yeah, I'm coordinating with them.
Got it. Does anybody have any questions for Alan about the holiday extravaganza? That'd be great. Okay. So, we have a draft 3 of this Police Advisory Committee reorganization. Again, this isn't a policy, it's more or less a roadmap to tell us where we're going and why and with who and how.
Have you sent a copy to Jessica?
I did. Yep. So, I guess the big part of it, the only thing that's really changed from draft 1 is September got turned to December. It's my fault. And then membership, I need to scratch that to 7. We went from 9 to 7. I didn't catch that. That's a typo. So we've got 2 town residents at large for 2-year terms, a town resident with law enforcement experience or extensive professional background in public safety for a 2-year term, and as also a prerequisite that the resident may not be currently or previously affiliated with the law enforcement agency contracted with the town to administer policing services. Representative of an area nonprofit for a 1-year term, and a representative of an area nonprofit specializing in an addiction treatment for a 2-year term, a business owner for a 1-year term, and a representative of the fire department for a 1-year term. So I think that, if my math in my head is right, which it very well could be off, that's 7 with a 4 2-year split and a 3 1-year. I'll go through town residents at large, probably the hardest group to recruit from because it's the biggest, and it's usually backwards. I find it easier to recruit volunteers from smaller groups of people, to be honest with you. So 2-year terms. The other town resident with law enforcement experience, 2-year term. It's going to be a harder person to find, so when you get them for a couple of years. And I thought we could rotate the area nonprofit that's represented on the board unless the committee felt strongly about keeping that one area nonprofit on, as if there were unfinished business or something along those lines. I think we only have so many nonprofits specializing in addiction treatment, so that's why I figured 2-year term for that seat. And then a business owner, it'd be nice to hear from different businesses and what their interactions are with law enforcement. Folks could be a mom and pop gas station, could be a restaurant, and then a representative of the fire department for a 1-year term is, I'd like to be more inclusive with the fire department about public safety in general. So that was my thought process. Now, anybody who has any points to make, please do.
I think you did a good job capturing our conversations over the last several meetings, so thanks for doing that.
Thank you. So we've got
Jessica?
Yeah, I think it looks really different. And I think this is just, it's like a good first step. I mean, I hope this is a first step that we can take in our community to just make a cultural change, and knowing that, this whole process isn't really a sprint. There's lots of steps I think that need to be taken throughout our community, just to make it more inclusive and more attractive to people who aren't necessarily from here. Like how are we attracting young, diverse people? And I think this is just a great first step.
Yep. I
I
think
we do have an opportunity to keep talking for a second with COVID. People are relocating to Vermont right now. So what's going to make them want to come here as opposed to another town? And if we're making the steps showing that we are open and we're welcoming and we want diverse people here and representing, on our board, that's sending a really good message. But I think there's more that we can do too down the road.
Yeah, I agree. And it is a good first step. I mean, I'll pull it from page 1. It is also expected that the select board will review race as a qualification when weighing appointments to the committee. It is paramount that persons of color serve on the committee or in another elected or volunteer capacity within the town to ensure that all perspectives are heard and represented within our municipal government. It's a pretty strong statement, and I'm happy that we're able to make it together. So that said, if we could approve this, roadmap, and I guess there's a series of actions recommended. It would start by vacating the police advisory board or committee, any appointments that were previously made. And I think that would take an action on our part since we had made appointments. Then we have to begin recruitment. Then when we have a quorum, 4 or more people, if they're ready to organize, they can elect a chair and vice chair. Then we'll make hopefully all the appointments for December, and then everybody can have their terms run accordingly from December until either December 2021 or 22. And then I think it'd be appropriate that they'd start meeting with the St. Albans Police Department to review data, see where we are, where we've been, and then to start meeting with Sheriff Langevin and his staff to see where we can go. And then it's really up to this new group to define what its monthly practices will be and how it will make recommendations. And then, it's just setting the expectations that when they make recommendations, that we'll act on it within 30 days. So it's fairly open-ended for them to be able to formulate their own processes.
Can I make a suggestion?
Absolutely.
I just wonder if you need to have St. Albans Police Department in there and just not put the law enforcement entity, seeing that we're changing.
Where does it say that?
On the bottom of page 3.
Okay.
number 4, saying that you're gonna go over the data with, I mean, shouldn't it just be policing agency?
Well, I mean, that's to say that, like, that's step 4. Like, after they start meeting, their first step should probably be to start meeting with SAPD to review data that they've collected
Okay.
and what their experiences have been. You know, they provided, it'll be 10 years?
A little bit longer.
Yeah.
I
So,
think we're
Yeah, we're
third.
starting our, yeah.
and if I know,
11th year.
if I won't know one thing about intern Chief Lamoth and Sheriff Langevin is that they can both sit in the same room together and have great conversations, and, you know, if we can benefit to that discussion, I think we should start it.
I'd also just love, this might be nitpicking, but I wanna make sure we do this every year. Maybe you appoint the first term to be effective through when we appoint all of the other boards in the spring, and then
Yeah.
thereafter do it every spring.
Okay.
Or stagger the terms, but I don't wanna have a board that is off cycle with every other board in town, that's all.
Yeah, we could do that. We can make a action to vacate all of the previous appointments and then just reappoint people to the prospective terms starting from day 1. Or
It
we
might-
can,
Might be nice to get somebody in there just who wants to get a flavor
Yeah,
of it
sure.
and be on for 6 months, or a year and a half, I don't know.
it's just if we're gonna take the time to
Yep.
find people that are gonna sit through those preliminary discussions and gathering a lot of that data, I'd prefer that for it to be as hard as possible for them to leave, to be honest with you. Okay.
So I think when we, can I speak?
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
when we do this, we have to cancel that portion in the contract about police advisory board. I think the select board did a resolution in 2011. So, and that is in Sheriff Langevin's future contract, and it's in the current contract. Police advisory board, so we would have to change that portion of the contract.
Yeah.
And I think we would probably need Chief Lamont and Sheriff Langevin to review it and say that they're willing to accept the contract with that change in it.
Okay. Well, we've got the sheriff on the line. I'm gonna put him on the hot seat. What do you think, Sheriff?
I don't have any issues with it. You know, Mo and I get along well. We've had several meetings since. You know, I've always said policing, you've got to evolve and, you know, and change. And, you know, this advisory board, we did it with the state police. You know, I think it's gonna be a good thing.
You wanna still check with, Mo Lamont, or you wanna?
No, as long as this resolution that we signed is, I think it's different than what we're looking at currently.
A little bit.
So, we can't have something in the contract that we
Right.
sign and
Right.
having a police unit trying to live with one when there's another one to overshadow it.
I mean, we should also probably put between, 3 and 5 on this page 2, that they should also help us, one of their first responsibilities should help us craft a policy for their committee. You know, something that we can all live with and within. Because we had talked about it, this isn't a policy, it's just a roadmap, and the policy itself should be defined by the people who are gonna help execute the work, so. That's a point that I missed. So we'll, as a caveat to that, we'll have to make sure that whatever we do is within our rights, within our contracts, any agreements that we've made. And
Yeah.
it sounds like the sheriff's willing to definitely be flexible, so. Jess?
I'm missing some conversation, but I just had a question. Will this board be able to meet without the head of the policing with them? Like, are they able to bring the police in when they want, or are the police at every meeting? Or is that gonna be dictated by what the group decides?
I think it's up to a quorum of the committee, like anything else, I would say. You know, we as a quorum of the board could decide to meet without any staff present, as long as we warn it appropriately.
Right. We'd
So-
have to request police department to be in attendance.
Yeah, you can either request it or not
Mhm.
request it. I mean,
The previous board did not always request
Right.
And nor did it require them to be present at every meeting.
Right.
Yeah. You know, I think the sheriff's got a pretty hands-on relationship, but I also know that he's smart enough to know when a conversation needs to be had that he probably shouldn't be part of too.
Absolutely.
So we appreciate, you know, I just have to say, Sheriff, I'm really looking forward to getting started with you. You know, a lot of
We're anxious to.
lot of enthusiasm around town, and the way that Interim Chief Lamoth and yourself have handled the transition at the beginning of the transition has been nothing but class. Both out of your office and the St. Albans Police Department. So, you know, it gave me a little bit of anxiety when we decided to make a change, but the switch has been pretty well seamless, and looking forward to continuing it all the way to July 1.
Awesome, thanks.
So do we,
Make a motion?
yeah, I would make a motion to adopt the roadmap as amended. Adding the part about a policy, you know, creating the policy together, and then changing the typo from 9 to 7.
Mm-hmm. I got that marked.
So I can do that and send everybody a clean copy tomorrow. And then we can start advertising right after the election, and we can start reaching out to area nonprofits, and we can just start doing some Googling and finding some emails online, and just blasting it out to everybody.
Yep. One of the takeaways from our last meeting was we wanted to reach out to Phoenix House, and I did email Phoenix House to see if they were interested, just to see if there was, you know, not to say that they are the nonprofit, but just to see if they were even interested in having a conversation.
I think it'd be great, you know. And if you know, to be blunt, if hell freezes over and we have more than 7 people approach us and want to get on, we can, you know, we can look at 7 differently. You know, if it could become 9 to leverage, you know, good applicants, then that's what we can do as a board. So 7 seems reasonable, though. So,
Yes.
Yep.
does anybody? Do we need a motion to do any? Well, I guess we need motions to do specific parts of it, including vacating the police advisory board.
Well, you're creating new policies, so that's generally, we like to have a motion for that.
Well, this isn't the policy,
Well,
though.
it's framework, though, to
Right.
create the new committee, right? You wanna wait to do all those motions and just,
We probably should, Carrie.
Yeah, then we can get a
Yeah.
list and maybe have a
Okay.
discussion of this, you know, you can look at
have
it.
a list? Okay.
Well, we can figure out exactly what we wanna do for motions and what's required to be separate and together, and
Okay.
we can handle it at, on the 16th. And then we'll have the cleaned up version in front of us, too. And somebody might catch something, you know, I did this myself on my desktop, and I'm not perfect, that's for sure. So, okay, so my other, again, I wanted to make a point, and it, you know, it happened to be included in this conversation, but again, that change has been very seamless, nothing but professionalism. And then Alan touched on the holiday extravaganza. Wanted to convey a deep appreciation and sense of satisfaction and pride among, I think, just about all residents in town to the Parks Department and yourself and John, and all the volunteers in the Parks Committee, Jessica and pals. I don't know how many people have approached me and said, all my life living here, these parks have never looked so good or been used so much. And, you know, just, again, hats off and thank you, and we look forward to continuing to support your mission. And we're looking forward to a great year next year. The Bay Day and the Great Race is all a big town event under our umbrella, and we're excited to have a great team of staff leading that charge. And hopefully, you know, nothing derails this holiday extravaganza, because it has the potential to be probably one of the, if not the best event ever in Bay Park. So I'm looking forward to attending. I don't have anything else under my report at this time. Does anybody have any other business?
I do.
Yeah.
In our packet, we had a letter from Gricebrook Garden Association.
Yeah.
And I know when you try to look at the select board minutes. It's the Reader's Digest version, that they don't include everything in there. Because I believe that you brought up, Brendan, about the purchase of the stop signs and stuff, it would be for vehicle traffic also.
I thought I would like to weigh the pros and cons and whether or not it should be locally
Yeah.
funded by the local option tax to just make, because it was under 100,000, one
Right.
thing or the other.
It was about the same price, I remember. I just wanna make sure that people that, this homeowners association realize we didn't have it in the minutes, but we did have a discussion. We're moving forward on it. We're looking at the numbers.
Yep.
So, Dan Crapo and the rest of the group, we haven't given up, we're still looking at it.
Yeah, and to be honest, having a touching base with Grice Brook is always beneficial. We try to do it once a year. We were waiting until the new director of operations came on, and then we would have that meeting sometime in December. And I think we're on track for that. So, we appreciate the letter, Mr. Crapo, and everybody up at Grice Brook, and we look forward to continuing to work to solve this issue. So thank you, Stan. Anybody else have any other business?
No.
Anything scary at the health department today, Aaron? Anything not top secret?
No.
All right, just to put you on the spot. So we have to go into an executive session. If anybody would like to make the appropriate motion to do so, we can move on.
I'll make a motion, we go into executive session to discuss legal, contractual, or personnel issues where premature general public knowledge of the subject matter would place the town or person involved at a substantial disadvantage. I'd further move to make a
You further
motion
move
to enter into executive session to discuss legal, contractual, or personnel issues and other provisions of Title I, Section 313A1 of Vermont statute, and to invite the town manager.
Tongue twister.
Mm-hmm.
Second, anybody? Stanley? Okay, all in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Perfect.